Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 1st of January of 2023. Today we have some updates, so let's discuss them. First of all, let's discuss the report of Minister of Defense of Russian Federation. The Russians today were saying that they remind us one more time that yesterday they attacked the Ukraine with massive missiles attacks right before the New Year Eve. And today they clarified their main goals of that attack, and the Russians reported that during the attack on the 31st of December, the Russians were trying to attack and destroy the Ukrainian drone industry. So we heard a lot about the Ukrainian drones industry. Furthermore, we had a lot of updates that during the November and December of 2022, the Ukrainians were attacking the strategic airport in Engels. The Ukrainians were attacking the airport in Bryansk region in this area. The Ukrainians were attacking the Russians with the drones in Crimea. So as far as I understand, and I believe that Ukrainians, with help of course the Western countries, they managed to create some kind of industry, some kind of plants or some infrastructure facilities to create their own production of drones. And I believe that Ukrainians managed to accumulate some number of drones during the year, maybe during the last months. And according to the Russian sources, the Ukrainians were planning to use all their drones on right before the New Year Eve on the territory of Russian Federation. It's according to the Russians. So that means that the Russians managed to discover the Ukrainian plans, to find the places where the Ukrainians were hiding their drones, and they attack. And they just, as far as I understand, because the fact that we haven't seen any drone attack on the territory of Russian Federation, I believe that the Russians were pretty successful by reducing the number of Ukrainian drones till zero, or till the critical number that using the drones the Ukrainians won't be able to achieve any success. Now let's talk about the situation on the ground. As you can see, there are a lot of icons. The Russians continue doing special military operation on the 1st of January of 2023, I believe that. And furthermore, lots of intelligence and the head of NATO, Stoltenberg, a lot of military experts are saying that the Russians are planning to continue special operation in the 2023. Furthermore, when talking about the head of intelligence of Ukraine, today or maybe yesterday, he published some kind of interview where he was answering the questions, and he made his own projections, and the most important thing was that the Russians will have some problems with equipment, with the drones, with everything they have, just by March. And starting from March, the Russians will be able to solve all their issues they have with rockets, with missiles, with drones, with tanks, with everything they have. Every single day, every single second, the Russians improves their military industry. They increase the production, they increase the quality, and of course it's like ongoing process. And anyway, sooner or later, at some point of this process, they will receive significant success, significant result, and they will be able to produce a lot of missiles, a lot of drones, a lot of everything they have, the most modern weapon. They won't have any issues and problems with this. And the head of Ukrainian intelligence says that by the end of March, or maybe by the beginning of March, the Russians will be able to solve every single issue they have with this. And after that, it will be like endless number of ammo, shells, tanks, artillery systems, rockets that goes to the front line. Another important thing that the head of intelligence said that he repeated the words of the Minister of Defense of Ukraine, Reznikov, and he repeated that the Russians somewhere at 5th of January the Russians are going to close the border and not to allow the men of Russian Federation who haven't reached the age of 55 years to cross the border. Furthermore, the borders of Belarus will be closed as well, because there are no borders between Belarus and Russia. And of course, those the Russians who want to evacuate or escape Russian Federation during the mobilization process are able to use Belarus as some kind of transit territory, and after that from Belarus they're able to enter Lithuania, Latvia, Poland, and so on. So the borders in Belarus will be closed for Russian man as well. So it's according to the Minister of Defense and according to head of Ukrainian intelligence. And many other things this person told us about upcoming year. And when talking about Ukraine, we see that when talking about Ukraine and let's say the United States Lend-Lease, we see that Lend-Lease haven't started working yet. So that means that maybe this year we're going to see the first results of that Lend-Lease, and we're going to see more weapons on the territory of Ukraine. Furthermore, don't forget that Ukrainian authorities reported, to be more precise, Zelensky and many other first persons of the Ukraine, that they're planning to have some vacation on the south of Crimea the upcoming summer of 2023. Who knows what's going to be next? Now let's discuss situation on the ground. When talking about Kupiansk front line, the Ukrainian lost around 40 soldiers, something around 3 armored vehicles during the day on the Kupiansk front line. Mainly the Russians were attacking the Ukrainians with artillery, with shells. They were trying to attack the Ukrainian accumulation of forces. There were no active battles, nowhere active movements on the front line, just the artillery duels. And all those losses was the result of those artillery duels. When talking about Liman front line, the picture on this front line is a little bit different, because the Russians reported that during the previous 24 hours they managed to destroy around 150 soldiers and something around 3 armored vehicles on this front line. So the most interesting number is just that Ukrainian lost just 3 armored vehicles, so the number of vehicles is very low, and the number of losses among infantry is very high, like 150 soldiers. The Russians were attacking the towns like Stelmakhovka. Stelmakhovka is located Rozovka, Stelmakhovka, Makeevka. Stelmakhovka is located on the north, so according to the Russian understanding of the fronts, the Stelmakhova is the northern border of Liman front line, and starting on the north of Stelmakhovka, the Kupiansk front line starts. So the Russians were attacking Ukrainians in Stelmakhovka and Rozovka, and the Russians were attacking city Bryanka, these areas as well. And as you can see, I will just try to explain you that the number of losses among infantry is 150 soldiers. For me, that means only one thing, that Ukrainians continue attacks the Russians through the forest. And of course, it's highly unlikely that Ukrainian uses armored vehicles and tanks in these forests for many reasons, and I believe you understand why the Ukrainians are not able to use a lot of armored vehicles in these forests. And the Russians are able to spot, because it's winter. I believe it's not very difficult to spot the enemy in these forests. So the Russians attacks the Ukrainians in this forest. So this is the reason why the numbers among the losses in infantry are so high from the Ukrainian side. When talking about the north, Seversk area, about this area, the Ukrainian lost, as a result of effective artillery duels, the Ukrainian lost, I believe, two howitzers, Skrap, it's Polish howitzers, in the area of Zvanovka and Ivanopolye. So in this, and another one, Ivanopolye, somewhere in the same place. So the Ukrainian lost this duel. We don't know about the loss from the Russian side. Maybe they lost something as well, but for now, no updates about the situation. When talking about Bakhmut area, the Ukraine lost another radar. The Ukrainian lost another radar station of counter-battery warfare in the west part of Bakhmut, as you can see in this area. Furthermore, the Russians destroy another, I believe this one, Ivanopolye, yes, one, and this is the second crab that the Ukrainian lost during the battle. Yes. When talking about the losses on this front line, the Ukraine lost around 110 soldiers and something around 14 armored vehicles. As you can see, the losses during the New Year Eve are very high from the Ukrainian side on Donetsk and Liman front line. And just one more time, that if we compare these two front lines, Donetsk and Liman, we see that on Donetsk, the Ukraine lost 14 armored vehicles along the front line, and when talking about Liman, just 3. And this is the same reason that when talking about Liman, the main clashes are in the forest lines, and when talking about Bakhmut, the main clashes is on the fields, in towns, in the city. So this is the reason why the losses among armored vehicles are so high from the Ukrainian side in Bakhmut front line. because at least you are able to spot, and from the Ukrainian side you are able to use this. When talking about Donetsk, we see that the Ukrainians decided to celebrate the citizens of DPR with the new year, and they brought a lot of surprises using ammo shells, and they were bombing town during the night, during the evening. I believe that the Russian sources are saying that Ukrainians started bombing DPR, the capital of DPR, somewhere at 4 a.m. of the local time. When talking about the front lines are stable. We haven't received any piece of data from this area. The Russians were slowed down completely, or maybe they decided to change the focus or to make some kind of rotation process, or maybe they are waiting or expecting for something new, or who knows, on the south. Maybe, who knows, can't tell you for now. When talking about the south of Ukraine, as you can see, there are a lot of icons with Ukrainian flags, and the Russians reported that as a result of the previous clashes of the previous 24 hours, the Ukrainians were trying to send their commandos, their scouts, to clarify the Russians' position, to attack with their mobile groups the Russian checkpoints and so on. And the Russians reported about the losses among those commandos from the Ukrainian side. And that's it. So no progress as well. No progress on the Vremivka tactical bridgehead. When talking about Zaporozhye, if you remember, 2 days ago, the Russians reported about establishing control over the town located on the south of Gulyai-Polye, Dorozhnyanka, and later, yesterday, during the previous 24 hours, the Ukrainians made maybe few attempts, maybe one attempt to take back this town, and that attack was repulsed by the Russians, and during that repulsing, the Ukrainians lost around 50 soldiers, something around 5 armored vehicles. And if we take about the entire front line, the entire battle line, the Ukraine lost during the previous 24 hours something around 6 commandos, 6 mobile, well-trained special groups that main job is to get inside the Russian defense orders and to destroy, like, I don't know, the supply roads and so on. So that's a lot of losses from the Ukrainian side, of course. When talking about Kherson, there are no front line, there are no changes on the front line. The situation is stable, is calm. The same situation about Energodar, the power plant, the Zaporozhye power plant is under complete Russian control or Russian defense. We haven't received any updates from the Ukrainian side or the Russians of any attempt of crossing this river or something like this. So I believe that the Russians managed to stabilize the situation in Energodar. Maybe it's a pause before the upcoming events that Ukrainians are planning to make in this area. Who knows? But for now, the situation is stable. So as you can see, during the previous 24 hours was calm. Just the artillery duels, just the regular work on the front line, just with 2 exceptions. I'm talking about Liman and Bakhmut. The situation in these towns are very hot. And the Russians continue storming and pushing Bakhmut, and the Ukrainians continues developing their bridgehead on the south of Kremenna in this area as well. So anyway, these months we are going to see more battles, more clashes between parties. So let's follow. And that's it for today. Military Summary channel reminds you to condemn any violence in Ukraine. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.